Today is my 25th birthday. I have officially lived for a quarter of a century, which is absolutely crazy. And because today I am turning 25 years old, I thought this would be a great time to create a list and share with you all my top 25 favourite movies of all time. I have loved movies for as long as I've had memories. So having lived 25 years on this earth, I'm old enough to have built a substantial catalogue of films, but still young enough that these movies reflect my childhood, teenage years, and early adulthood all at once. These are the films that have moved me, have stayed with me, and really mean something to me when I watch them. This is not just a movie ranking to me, it's a snapshot of who I am as a person at 25. Ask me again at 35 and this list could look completely different. But for now, let's get started. Starting off my list at number 25 is the original Star Wars. If you asked me my favourite movie 10 years ago, my answer would unquestionably be the original Star Wars movie. As I've gotten older, my love for Star Wars has faded with time, but the original Star Wars trilogy will always be very close to my heart. The fact that this movie turns 50 next year is mind-boggling. All the effects, puppetry, and animatronics hold up flawlessly. This is my favourite Star Wars movie because I just love the sense of adventure and excitement that the movie has, and it includes an abundance of my favourite characters in fiction. Han, Luke and Leia have great chemistry. At number 24, I have Creed. If you know me, you know that I love boxing, and the Rocky franchise is probably my favourite movie franchise of all time. And out of all the movies in the Rocky saga, the first Creed movie is my favourite. It is a legacy sequel done perfectly. It builds up new characters and makes things feel relevant for a new generation, while also honouring perfectly what came before. It has an awesome training montage, an incredibly exciting fight at the end, and it has a lot of heart. At number 23 is my favourite horror movie of all time, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. When I first watched this movie for the first time last Halloween, I had two main takeaways. One, of course, Jack Nicholson is absolutely terrifying in this movie. And secondly, I don't want to sound like a pretentious asshole when I say this, but the camera work, the use of colours, the lighting really stood out to me. This is my favourite of what I've seen from Stanley Kubrick's work so far. At number 22 is the first of many Steven Spielberg films on this list, Saving Private Ryan. This was a last minute inclusion on the list. I rewatched it recently and oh my god, this movie is amazing. It has maybe my favourite opening in all of film history. That opening and really the whole movie is a really brutal, gory, heartbreaking experience. The film really gets across the horrors and brutality of war unlike anything I've ever seen before. Number 21, I have Pulp Fiction. Quentin Tarantino, say whatever you want about him as a person, but as a filmmaker, he has an unlimited amount of sauce. And Pulp Fiction, while not my favourite of his, is probably the most entertaining film that I've ever watched. From start to finish, it is just incredibly engaging, funny, and iconic. At number 20, I've got Fair Play, ladies and gentlemen. This is probably the most niche movie on the list in that not a ton of people have heard of, but bro, trust me, this movie is incredible. It's a workplace drama between a newly engaged couple. It starts off very sweet and innocent, but with every second that goes by, it gets more and more intense and thrilling. The movie is carried by the performances by the two lead actors, Phoebe Dynevor and Alden Ehrenreich. I remember when I first watched this a couple of years ago, and when it ended, my jaw was on the floor. I cannot tell you how underappreciated it is, and I cannot recommend it enough. At number 19, I have Finding Nemo. I had to throw a Pixar movie on here and I went with my favourite of the bunch, Finding Nemo. This is a pure childhood classic for me, family, adventure, going to all these different locations and meeting all these cool, unique characters. It's a really comforting, feel-good movie. I can put it on anytime, no matter how I'm feeling, and just have a blast. And the movie is so aesthetically pleasing too. It is one of the most beautifully looking movies that I've ever seen. At number 18, I've went with Michael Mann's Heat. As you'll see more later in the video, my favourite genre of film is crime, thrillers and dramas, so this film is literally perfect for me. Every moment is so riveting and it's so well put together. But of course, the film is standing on the shoulders of Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. Their performances, character dynamic and rivalry is what makes this movie truly iconic. At number 17 is The Shawshank Redemption. This is a film where I don't see how anybody could watch it and not think that it is truly exceptional. The movie is really tragic, but it has a really hopeful and inspiring feel to it. There is not a single flaw I can think of. I think it is a perfect film from start to finish. Number 16, I've got Parasite. Going into this film, I wasn't really sure what to expect because I had heard lots of good things about it, but I wasn't really too familiar with foreign films. But after I watched it, what I witnessed was maybe the best made movie that I've ever seen in my life. Parasite is so flawless on every aspect of filmmaking. It explores class, inequality, the divide between the rich and the poor, and it all comes across so well. Number 15 is my favourite Christopher Nolan movie, The Prestige. With Nolan's next film, The Odyssey, coming out in just a couple of weeks, this year I've been working through every movie in his filmography, and when I came across The Prestige, boy, I was blown away. The movie is constantly hitting you with unexpected twists and turns, the writing is magnificent, both Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman give exceptional performances. The movie is straight up genius. I think it is Christopher Nolan's masterpiece. At number 14 is La La Land. La La Land is such a beautiful film. It's my favourite musical of all time, and it's also my favourite romance film of all time too. It's a movie about following your dreams and the harsh reality that comes with it. You will be rejected, you will lose hope, you will be misunderstood, but you've just got to persevere and not give up. We see that theme explored through two different characters played by Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, and their bond is fantastic in this movie. And I love how this movie ends. The final moments in this film are perfect. Number 13, I've got Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. If adventure has a name, it must be Indiana Jones. The Indiana Jones films were a big part of my childhood. Along with Star Wars, I can't get enough of that original trilogy. What I love most about Last Crusade is the inclusion of Sean Connery as Indy's dad. Their dynamic and back and forths on this globe-trotting adventure was so good. It adds a lot of humour and charm to the movie that really wasn't there in the two other Indy films. At number 12, I have Gladiator. I'll never forget the feeling I had when I first watched this film of how real and tangible and grand in scale everything in this movie felt. Ridley Scott made yet another movie years ahead of its time. It is such an entertaining, beautiful movie. At number 11, I have Ocean's 11. Haha, see what I did there? I put Ocean's 11 at number 11. Haha. I'm gonna kill myself. But on a serious note, Ocean's 11 is just a really cool movie. A fun heist, a stacked cast, it's very funny as well. By far the biggest gripe people have with this film is Don Cheadle's hilariously bad British accent, and yeah, it is pretty bad. But honestly, that is one of my favourite parts of this movie. It has a perfect blend of goofiness, entertainment, and intensity. Starting off the top 10 is Manchester by the Sea. Manchester by the Sea is a movie that I relate to a little bit more than I'd like to. I have suffered from depression for years, and this movie was such a realistic look on it, I thought, and I could really resonate with a lot of the things in this movie. It just really hit me in here, and that's why it stayed with me. And all of that would not work if Casey Affleck didn't give one of the best acting performances I've ever seen in my life. And the movie isn't all doom and gloom all the time. Something I've noticed not a lot of people have talked about with this movie is it has a funny, light-hearted side to it, which is really nice. At number 9, I have Prisoners. Another movie that makes you feel like shit, but I absolutely love it for that. This is the best I've ever seen of Hugh Jackman. He is terrifyingly good in this movie, along with Jake Gyllenhaal and Terrence Howard, who are big highlights too. I love the miserable, hopeless feeling of the film, and every scene is so riveting and engaging. Denis Villeneuve has made some epic, incredible movies since that I love, but I keep going back to Prisoners as my personal favourite of his. At number 8, I've got Jurassic Park. The Welcome to Jurassic Park scene alone is enough to make this list. John Williams' score, mixed with the look of awe and wonder on the actors' faces, makes it one of the greatest scenes ever directed. The practical effects mixed with the CGI on the dinosaurs still holds up today. I can only imagine how audiences felt seeing that in 1993. But now it's getting old, so they should stop it. And what you don't realise is we still have one more Spielberg movie coming up on my list. At number 7, I have The Godfather. If you go to Google and search up the best movies ever made, you will find The Godfather somewhere on every single list you find. But it is looked at as one of the greatest movies ever made for a reason, because it is that good. It's actually sickening how good this movie is. Everything is flawless. From the characters, the dialogue, the atmosphere, the music. There's literally nothing I can say that hasn't already been said because the movie is so iconic. At number 6, I have The Batman. In a lot of ways, this movie quite honestly saved my life. I made a whole video on how it did a few years back, so make sure and check that out. But outside of that, The Batman is hands down my favourite comic book movie of all time. Considering Batman has always been my favourite superhero, this movie just hits the nail right on the head, with the character, the world, the aesthetic, the detective side of the character. Everything just could not have been any better. It's visually stunning, the script is so well written, and Robert Pattinson will always be my definitive Batman. I cannot tell you how much this film has helped me over the years in so many ways. At number 5 is David Fincher's Seven. Like I said earlier, crime is my favourite genre of film, and Seven is literally the granddaddy of crime films, so this movie is perfect for me. When people talk about this movie, they always bring up the final act, and rightfully so. The last 30 minutes of this movie is probably the best final 30 minutes of any film I've ever seen. But the rest of the film has such a bleak and gritty vibe that I just love. Detective Mills and Somerset, played by Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, mirror each other as characters, and it makes for such an interesting dynamic. At number 4 is Inglourious Basterds. Like I said earlier, Quentin Tarantino is my favourite director of all time, and this is my favourite film of his. Inglourious Basterds has the best script of a film that I've ever seen. The best moments of this film are just scenes of people talking, from the opening farm scene, the bar scene, the restaurant scene. The first time I watched this film, for the entire 2.5 hours, I could not take my eyes off the screen. It is incredibly well written, incredibly well paced, the dialogue is sharp and precise. This is Quentin Tarantino's masterpiece. Argue with the wall. At number 3, I've got Knives Out. I think Rian Johnson is one of the most underrated filmmakers working today, and I think his first Knives Out film is a murder mystery done perfectly. The way the story and mystery unfolds is great, there's constant twists and turns, and it's really engaging. Daniel Craig is phenomenal as Benoit Blanc, and as much as I love him as James Bond, I think this is his best role, as well as Chris Evans and Ana de Armas, who are big standouts in this movie as well. At number 2 is Raiders of the Lost Ark. From the moment when my dad first showed me the Indiana Jones films when I was 7 years old, that is when my love for cinema was truly born. That still lives on nearly 18 years later. Raiders of the Lost Ark is a perfect movie. It is the pinnacle of action adventure. Raiders has so much wonder and intrigue to it. It is a film that I can put on at any time, no matter how many times I've seen it, and just be completely glued to the screen. The character of Indiana Jones is probably my favourite protagonist of all time. He is just the perfect level of coolness and goofiness as a character. I used to dress up as him all the time as a kid. From all the philosophical messages about the Ark of the Covenant, all the surreal locations we go to, we get to see Nazis get slimed out, which will never not be awesome. The set pieces and action sequences are out of this world. It feels so real compared to literally any movie coming out today, let alone 1981. Also, I think the score is John Williams' best work, and that is saying a lot. But my favourite movie of all time, my number 1, is The Lion King. There's not a single frame in this movie that I don't think is perfection. Every scene, every line, every message, every piece of music is magic, and it means so much to me. Of course, I first watched this as a kid and I loved it then, but there is so much that I can appreciate about it as an adult. The amount of breathtaking scenes, like the opening with the Circle of Life, the stampede chase, the scene where Simba meets Rafiki and speaks to the ghost of his father. It has a really strong message about confronting your past and having faith in who you are, which is it just really resonates with me. Also, the score is out of this world, and all the musical numbers are bangers that I listen to constantly. The film is perfect, plain and simple, and it is without a doubt my favourite film of all time. In fact, I actually got banned from watching it as a kid because every time I'd watch it, I would start acting like a lion, and I actually ended up biting one of the kids in my class at school. Yeah, I was a troubled kid. But anyway, I really hope you enjoyed hearing my top 10 favourite movies of all time. I really hope you enjoyed. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.